Oh,
This is. Oh.
okay.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome everybody to another Kansas City Oasis via Zoom Sunday morning gathering. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you've made it through another week of quarantine and another week of trying to decide exactly what the hell is going on in the world. I hope your worlds are okay. Mine has been all right. I am getting to know my neighbors more in the last couple of weeks than I have in the last couple months. So this is turning out in some ways okay. It's also terrible in a lot of ways. So that's why we have our community. That's why we have each other. I'm so glad to be here yet again as your MC this morning. We've got a fantastic program as always. We have JJ on the banjo this morning. We have a community moment from Audra Alexander, a newer member to Oasis, who I'm very excited to hear from. And our featured speaker today is Natasha Ria El-Scari. So let's go ahead and get right into it. JJ, start banging away on that thing. All right, all right, all right. Thank you, JJ, our one and only, the one who always steps up when we need him to. We originally had Mr. Mark Lowry, a pianist around town here, to play for us, but he fell ill, and so of course JJ stepped up to the plate as he always does. So we thank you, JJ. We love you. Thank you for being as talented as you are. We love you, and let's keep on moving on. So who do we have for today? We've got some announcements. I have a lot of announcements. So let's start off with some high points. We've got some birthdays in our community this morning. We've got Jim Skinner and Susan Glennemeyer were yesterday. So happy birthday to them. We can do a little something. I'm definitely not singing to you guys, so don't even try. Melanie Phillips is also this week. Is Melanie here? I don't know. There's so many people. I can't even do it. So Melanie, yay, Melanie. Melanie's been around for a long, long time. Let's see what else. Scott and Sherry Dyring have a new granddaughter born at the end of April, Eden Mariah. So, hey, we got a new baby in the world. I hope everything's going well with them and that new baby. I know that things are a little weird right now, having babies in hospitals. I don't even know if they had it in the hospital, but I hope that they've gotten a chance to see that new family member of theirs. As we were putting up calls for announcements and good things in people's lives, some other people had dropped in some things that are going on with them. Amy and Jason, I believe that you guys have been around for a little while, been together for a little while. Am I right? 6 years? Is that a true fact? You guys have been together 6 years? Yeah. Is that an actual anniversary date, hard date? Yeah. Okay. Let's do a 6-year. Yay! Smiles and claps for them. Congratulations. We love you guys. Keep it going. Yeah. Strong members of this community. We're so happy. Please keep coming. We love you guys. All right. We talked about this last week, and I just want to mention it again. Amy Callahan, one of our community members, went up to, she's a nurse, went up to New York to do some heroic first responder work in New York, and on her way home, found out that she contracted COVID-19. So she came home and was able to reunite with her family, but is now in isolation at her home with her family, recovering well, it sounds like, but still we hope everybody will keep Amy and her family in their thoughts. And if you have a chance to send her a message or anything like that, I know she and her family would much appreciate it. We love you, Amy. If you're ever going to see this or you're watching this morning, we love you very much, and thank you so much for everything you've done. One more quick announcement. Our board president, Nikki Actifis, landed a fantastic job via Teach for America to teach biology at Wyandotte High School whenever school gets going again. So round of applause for Nikki, our resident scientist. Yay. We're so happy for Nikki. She's going to do a great job keeping them kids in line and teaching that biology, getting it right in their brains, and maybe we'll have some future Oasis members who care about science and reason. All right, we're so happy about this. Yeah, Nikki's very unhappy that I just announced that, but she didn't know it was coming. All right. I think, let's see, I got one more thing here for you. The snail mail submissions, I announced this last week. They were supposed to be over already, but we're going to extend it till this afternoon. Julie Randolph is helping run this whole deal. If you're interested in sharing some notes or some letters or some pictures or anything that will fit in an envelope that we can spread through the U.S. Postal Service, you can submit that via a form that we have on the private page and in the chat here in this Zoom gathering. You can submit that information, and then the social team is going to start sending around all of our stuff to different community members and give us a chance to connect with different people around the community and give us a chance to remember that we're all in this together. So check out that snail mail submission due in by about 1 o'clock today. So give you a little bit longer to think about it if that's something you'd want to participate in. And yeah, we'll keep that moving on. I think that's what we're going to do for now, and we'll move on to our community moment. So this morning, our community moment, we have Audra Alexander. Audra, are you here? Where's your picture? There you are. You're looking right there. All right. So normally for these, this is a chance for somebody from our community to tell us a little bit about themselves, share a story, share a part of their life with us. Audra's been here for a while. I know a lot of us know her already, but she's going to tell us a little bit more, something a little more specific. I don't even know what she's talking about this morning, so I'm excited myself. We usually ask for 3 words to describe our speaker and a warning label, as a lot of you know. So the 3 words that Audra gave us were curious, determined, and resilient. I like all those words. And her warning label, which I can attest to, coffee first. Audra, please take it away.
Okay, thank you guys for asking me back. I appreciate that. The last time I was in front of y'all, I had a funny little story about how I became an atheist at the age of 8. This time I'm gonna be a little bit more serious and talk about hearing health, which is what I do for a living. So I'm a hearing aid specialist, also known as a hearing instrument specialist, or HIS for short. And from what I understand, we have an audiologist member of OASIS whom, full disclosure, I have not met yet. So I just want to point out a couple of differences between what we do, and then I'll get into the meat of what I wanted to talk to you about today. And because I have to talk fast, I prepared a PowerPoint to put up so that if I go through anything too fast and you wanted to know more, there'll be a record for you. Okay, so both audiologists and hearing instrument specialists perform comprehensive hearing evaluations and fit and dispense hearing aids. However, these days, audiologists tend to have a doctorate. So in addition to a lot of student debt, they also have a wider scope of practice. That includes things like diagnostics and treatment of vestibular disorders or tinnitus or auditory processing disorders. Some audiologists also specialize. So maybe they just do pediatrics, or maybe they just sit in the operating room and monitor the 8th nerve during head and neck surgeries. Audiologists are awesome. I've literally never met one that didn't have a real passion for helping people. So as an HIS, I don't have that scope of practice. The only thing I do is fit and dispense hearing aids after a comprehensive hearing evaluation. Most of my job is knowing what I don't do, so that if I encounter someone with a condition outside the scope of my practice, I can refer them to the proper medical resource. That being said, I do have some student debt. I have an applied science degree, which means I did 2 years of college that were concentrated in hearing science. I also did 240 clinical rotation hours in order to be certified by the state of Missouri through an additional testing process. Not all states requirement of education for my job, but Missouri is weirdly ahead of the curve when it comes to hearing impairment. Okay, I only have 7 minutes to talk about something I could literally sit here and talk about for like 2 hours. So I'm going to run through this very quickly. There's going to be a number of specifics that I just don't have time to get into. Important stuff that you guys may have questions about. So I'm going to gloss over a lot of things. If you see something that interests you and you want to know more about it, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss it further, and I will put that information at the end. So, oh, my slides are out of order. Okay. The first, no, they aren't. Okay. the first thing we need to understand is that we hear with our brain, not with our ears. So under normal circumstances, sound wave travels through the air in the form of a certain type of energy. It goes in through the ear canal and it undergoes energy transformations as it passes through different stations of the brain until the sound is fully interpreted. So with all of those different places to go through, that's the number of places that it can be distorted, disrupted, or outright stopped. This is important for a number of reasons. I'll get to that in a second. The other thing that I need to do is define my terms. So there's an entire conversation around what hearing aids even are. For today's purposes, I'm defining hearing aids as digital programmable prosthetics worn in or on the ear that amplify sound in multiple channels. That means that I am not talking about personal sound amplification products, which do not require a hearing evaluation and do not require special programming to fit. Those have a place, albeit a narrow one on the market, but they just make this conversation so much longer. So I don't want to get into that right now. Sorry, let me just pull up my notes here. Okay, so the most common form of hearing loss is called presbycusis, which is also known as age-related hearing loss. And this is what it looks like on an audiogram right here on the left. Typically, it means that you do fine in the lower frequencies and then the hearing drops off in the higher frequencies, which for hearing aids means 2,000 to 8,000 hertz. This is a blank audiogram interpretation over here. In the simplest of terms, and I'm really, really oversimplifying, sound comes in two components, basically what you hear and what you understand. Low frequency, which is on the left side of the screen line here, that's volume. Higher frequencies are associated with clarity. So like bass versus treble, volume versus clarity, what you hear versus what you understand. For this hypothetical patient on the left, you can see that what they hear is fine. They can hear that people are talking. Their hearing is in the normal ranges for low frequency. And then it drops off and they can't understand what's being said because their clarity hearing is very, very poor. This is also why every grandchild thinks that their grandkids mumble. Kids do talk fast. However, 1/3 of the population over 65 literally cannot hear a significant portion of speech. Why is this important? Because speech is how we communicate, mostly, right? Obviously, there's an entire community of hearing impaired people who have a language and a culture and support systems meant to support their disability. But for the average elder hearing person, hearing loss represents a severe disability precisely at a point in their lives when it is very, very difficult to relearn how to communicate. And because it typically happens gradually, most people ignore the problem and compensate in ways that have undesirable outcomes. So like withdrawing from social situations or interpersonal relationships. It's very lonely. It's also a safety hazard. You may also be aware of recent studies correlating hearing loss and cognitive decline, or like Alzheimer's. So that's another conversation that's like its own presentation. I've attended a couple. They're about an hour long at minimum. So I just want to remind everyone that correlation is not causation. However, that being said, there is a very strong linear incline between the rates of hearing loss and the rates of cognitive decline. If you want to learn more about that, you can plug in those search terms to Google and that'll give you a good start. Or like I said, I'm a resource for you if you want to discuss that. Mostly people don't want to think about hearing aids. Among the population who needs them the most, the social stigma is still very high. At least half of my job is overcoming that social stigma. So let's forget about hearing aids for a second. The thing that I want to get across to you guys today is hearing health is healthcare. Okay, so get a hearing evaluation done. Do it now while you don't think you have hearing loss. That way, number one, you understand what normal to you hearing looks like on an audiogram. You get a baseline. They're not invasive. They take about 25 minutes. Then have one done every 1 to 3 years, depending on your risk factors. So this is just like any other healthcare test. This is not just for your hearing. I have colleagues currently who have caught middle ear tumors in asymptomatic people through the normal evaluation process. You don't know what you don't know. And trust me, you don't know that you have an auditory system tumor until it's much too late to save your hearing. So just get your hearing test done. Even just the freebie ones in the walk-in clinic. Like I said, they're short, they're easy, they're non-invasive, and you walk out with an audiogram to put in your health record. The other reason to do an annual evaluation is because the sooner you catch your hearing loss, the cheaper it will be to fix or compensate for. Hearing aids are expensive. Another conversation that you could go on for a very long time. However, there is a range, and mild hearing loss can usually be treated at the lower end of that range. Okay, so I think probably that uses up most of my time. Like I said, lots of things in there that I didn't get to, lots of in-depth conversations that are industry specific, but also of interest to patients in general. So if you want to contact me, I'm happy to answer any questions. Sharing my knowledge is probably the favorite part of my job. I'm less keen on the sales aspect. So if you want to know about the auditory system or how hearing aids work or what the legislation is currently surrounding them, I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction for that. Okay, thank you guys.
Audra, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I wish I had the interest in, yeah. Oh, it's a round of applause, big round of applause, yay, thank you. I looking at those pictures of the ears, like they were in a textbook, a biology textbook.
Yeah.
I wish I had the interest that I have now in biology back in high school, because they looked way cooler to me now than they did back then. Now I'm all interested, especially now that I can tell that I've already started losing my hearing. It probably didn't help that I had, I definitely need a test after having band practice in a 10 by 10 storage unit for like 5 years. We were all just like destroying ourselves, and my parents kept telling me put earplugs in, and I just refused because I was too cool and all that stuff. So I can definitely tell that with each headphone and the other that things are not good. I'm on my way. So anyway, that was great. Thank you for all the great information. Turns out, as you were speaking, one of our known audiologists for Oasis, Ms. Melanie Phillips, was the one who had the birthday this week. And Gabriel just told us in the chat that his wife Sarah is also an audiologist. So we've got a few ear and hearing related folks here at Oasis. So that was just great. Thank you so much. It was a great presentation. All right, so just so everybody knows, I think I forgot to mention this at the top of the hour here. We are live on Facebook, streaming live this morning. So tell any of your friends if they're interested in finding us in a little simpler way. They can find us on streaming on Facebook Live. I think we're going to try to do this from here on out, as long as everything goes well this morning. So with that said, we are going to drop out into our breakout room. We're going to have, instead of our coffee break, you can make it a coffee break if you'd like, but we're going to break out into smaller groups for about 10 minutes, have some short and friendly conversations, and come back together and hear from our featured speaker this morning, Miss Natasha El-Scari. So we'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. If you choose to stay in the main room, you be sure to mute and close your video down for the next 10 minutes. We're not sure what's exactly going to happen in the main room. So that being said, we'll see you soon.
All right, all right. Everybody back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hope everybody had great rooms. Hope you had some good conversation. We are back in our main room here. Everybody taking their time coming back. Oh, look, I lost my Zoom. Here's all the features. There's the JJ doing some ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling on that banjo. His favoriteest thing to do. I'm just going to make a quick announcement here before JJ takes off. We're going to be posting this. The board is going to be posting this today, right after we finish this session. We just wanted to have an announcement as it relates to COVID-19, a community update for everybody. I'm just going to read this off real quick. This is from the board itself. Kansas City Oasis has the privilege to reside in two great states, Kansas and Missouri. Our location has provided us with some great opportunities as well as some significant challenges. During this pandemic, the latter has been more prominent, as we've had two state governments rolling out different guidelines. This upcoming week, both states will be lifting some restrictions on the stay-at-home order. We believe the restrictions are being lifted too soon and want to continue to protect our community the best we can. Great. As we believe reality is known through reason, the Kansas City Oasis Board of Directors has come to the decision that we'll start to consider restarting in-person events no earlier than June 15th. This includes and is not limited to Sunday gatherings, social events, volunteer events, community groups, and the like. During the time between now and then, the board will be developing some new policies surrounding health and safety etiquette. For now, virtual Sunday gatherings will continue to take place weekly via Zoom, along with other virtual social events. Thank you for sticking with us through this weird, strange time. And if you have any questions, get a hold of anybody on the board, and stay safe and continue as you're doing. We love you guys so much. I just wanted to drop that in there. And again, you can find that on the private page as well from here on out. With that said, let's get JJ and that banjo back up here one more time and hear some more tunes.
Hey everybody. I'm going to try to do a song that I haven't done in a long time, so no promises. But here we go.
All right, all right, all right. I like that one. I like that one. I like the. I don't know what that was, but it sounded awesome. Okay. Once again, we love you, JJ. Thank you for always being here for us. Let us get to our featured speaker this morning, Miss Natasha. Ooh, oh, sorry, I lost it. I lost all my things. Excuse me, Natasha Ria El-Scari. I asked Natasha how she would appreciate me introducing her. She gave me a few quick things. She said to say she's from Kansas City, an author of 5 books, an activist, a mother of 2, and she owns an art gallery on 39th Street, which hopefully once all this is done with, we can all go and visit and appreciate and support. So please welcome Natasha this morning. Take it away. Excuse me.
All right, all right, all right. Good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here. You know, it's just not every day that you get to join and be a part of an atheist community via Zoom and hear the banjo before noon. Okay, so let's talk about that first. That is one of the things, if someone said, if my life were to take me anywhere, that is what I absolutely love about life and about experiences. And so I am probably going to do the very same thing to you by what we're going to talk about today, which you probably weren't thinking that, well, maybe you did know what we were going to talk about. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go through the PowerPoint because it helps to keep me kind of time-wise. Guy, if you need to give me the signal to like wrap it up in a minute or whatever, please don't. I know that I won't be offended, okay? Alrighty. So, you know, all the kind of together. So I want to talk to you about Mama Sutra, which is a book that I wrote back in October, or released back in October, and it's called Love and Lovemaking Advice to My Son. Yes, I actually wrote a book about this. And one of the reasons that I wrote the book about it, I guess just let me say first that the book is written as a heterosexual mother to a heterosexual son. However, I do believe that when it comes to love and lovemaking, it really doesn't matter. Obviously, there are some logistical things that matter in the more in-depth process, but the idea of creating and being a lover really just depends on what we're putting inside of people. So I want to say that before I go in. So even if you don't identify the same way that I identify, I think that you'll find some things that will still be helpful. So I wanted to share with you all some pictures because I feel like this is kind of what my life is like, right? So in the upper left-hand corner, yes, that is my belly, bearing stretch marks and hair and a navel ring and waist beads. And I like to do that because so often, because we live in a patriarchy, we don't ever get to see real women's bodies. But this is what a woman's body looks like who's given birth, this particular woman, and a woman who still stands in her sensuality, her sexuality. So I'm all about dismantling the patriarchal mother. In the middle, there's a picture of my grandmother who is 98 years old. She is one of my best friends and one of the most sex positive people that I know. So I have been lucky enough to be raised by my grandmother, not raised by her, but my grandmother, which that is my father's mother, and then my mother are both really super sex positive people. And so I just had that great experience. And then you'll see my son, that is a picture of him in quarantine, right? He looks like he's kind of in a hospital bed. All of his hair is overgrown, but that is him. And he lives in Pennsylvania. So he attends Lehigh University and decided to shelter in place there because he would have had to fly out of Philly or New York, which are both really unsafe places. So it looks like we probably won't be seeing him until maybe September or so. We've decided to just kind of play it by ear. And then there's my beautiful daughter on the right. I don't know if it's your right or not. And she sent this picture to me when she was, at a party, which I saw her get ready for. But this was a moment for me that I realized, oh my gosh, my baby girl is not a baby. she is a young woman. She's 16 years old. And even though that's a teenager, she's still a young woman. And she's totally adorable. Look how cute she is. My son and daughter are super close. So, Mama Sutra, this is the book, and I consider it a one-stop shop. So, know that I'm talking about the book, but I'm not necessarily trying to sell the book to you, but it just kind of is. This is how I felt like I had to talk about it. And what I wanted to do was establish just an out there conversation and a persona about the most difficult to discuss conversations, and in it to have some guided contemplations, right? That will assist not only in talking with your children, but even yourself in understanding yourself and creating and understanding preference. I feel like for me, there has not really been a book that kind of enveloped all of these different things. And so I wanted to have open-ended conversations and just to talk about the tough stuff, which even regardless of how people were raised or what they believe, people still sometimes struggle with having conversations around and about sex, love making, and intimacy. So, one of the things in removing the taboo is to dismantle the patriarchal mother, which is why I just put that image of my own belly up there. Sometimes what we don't realize that women often face when they become parents, and this is not the case for men, is that you go from this person who may have a sexuality that is for the use for men in a patriarchy. And then once you become a mother, you are to ignore that part of who you are outside of who you are partnered with. And so when you get very inundated with motherhood, you are asked subtly to ignore your sexuality. You are asked subtly to not have to engage. And so that's one of the things that I feel like what I try to do in the book. The book is written as an extended letter in first person to my son, which details experiences that I've had within my sexual self, as well as being his mother. And he even writes the foreword and just talks about what it's like to actually have a mother who is sex positive, right? There are people have major concerns that if you have a sex positive mother who is, down with the patriarchy, that you're gonna turn. It's like Reefer Madness. Some of you all may be old enough to remember that movie where it's like if people start to smoke marijuana, the end is near. So that is one of the main things in the book. My son and I we asked to interview 200 men, but only 25 replied. Those men range in age 17 to 70, across preference, across age, race, and identification. And we asked them two questions. What do you wish that your mother would have taught you about sex? And what did she teach you about sex? And what's interesting is that most of the responses were the same. It was very little, or it was all about the fear base around pregnancy, childbirth, and delivery, but never really about the joy of love and lovemaking. So I want you all to answer these questions honestly. You can put them in the chat. I can't see it when I'm doing the PowerPoint, but you all can still kind of engage in a conversation. And this is my question for you. Do we have parents? Do we have parents, people who are either birth parents or play the parent role or adopted parents? Anybody in the community that is the case? I can't really see it, but a few people's faces. All right. What was the first thing that you were taught about your body? So that is one of the first things that I want you all to answer, either in your mind, you can jot it down, or maybe we can talk about that a little bit later in the Q&A. The reason that I say this is because this is not about sex, but what is the first thing that you're taught about your body? Most people have very early memories that things that they may have been taught about their body were about the no of it and not the yes of it. And all of these things inform how and what we teach children about their bodies, okay? What was the first thing you were taught about sex? Sometimes what you're taught about your body and what you were taught about sex go hand in hand. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And so the question is, what was the first thing that you were taught about sex? Did you ask? Were you told? How old were you, right? All right. And I'm sorry, this is all big, but that's just kind of liked how big it was. All right. What was the parental preparation for sex? So, how did your parents teach you how to prepare for sex, love making, intimacy? I kind of use those interchangeably. And then, how old were you when you had your first sexual experience? And I think that for some people, there are two different experiences that we have to speak about. One is the first consensual, and one is the first non-consensual. Because sometimes those are those have happened to people, and those, depending on what came first, really leads or determines how a person experiences their first consensual sexual experience, right? And then what was the parental or adult reaction about learning you were having sex? Now, some of these questions will probably make you all chuckle a little bit as you think about your own sexual past, but for some people, it may actually be triggering as well. And so I just want you all to make sure that you're being gentle with yourself. And I know I'm moving through these questions fast, but it's kind of for a reason. And then currently, how often do you talk about sex with your parents now? Do you all chat with your parents about, and I'm talking about people of all ages, or if your parents are no longer on this side, did you talk freely about sex with your parents? And then I would want everyone to go back really quick, and I'm gonna scoop. Okay, now, what was the first thing you taught your children about their body? What was the first thing that you taught your children about sex? What was your preparation for your children in teaching them about sex? And how old do you think your child was when they had their first sexual experience? And then what was your reaction to learning that your child was having sex? All right. And then how often do you talk to your children about sex? So, one thing I do is that I try to get parents to understand and adults to understand is that we do things generationally on a subconscious level without thinking about them, especially when it comes to things about sex and it comes to things that are topics that are difficult to talk about or difficult to go into. And so, what it ends up happening is that we create these lovers in the world who are often underskilled or misinformed. Because until someone becomes a great lover, they've had to stumble through a few people. And if everyone is having to stumble through a few people, a lot of us can get damaged along the way of discovering who we really are. And so you have a lot of women and men trying to recover the things that happened to them. When really, I deeply believe that a part of my activism is moving all of that up. There's no reason that we should have people having poor communication, sex, and intimacy in their teens and 20s, and then they're using their 30s to try to recover from it, as well as have a family, as well as figure out who they are. So I'm just trying to go, wah, cut that in half, okay? And my question is, I wish, well, you can fill in the blank on this. I wish my lovers would have known what, right? So as a feminist, I believe, obviously, all lovers come from a mother. No one has ever said that. That's my quote, and I kind of like it because that's not something that we think about in a patriarchy. But every single human being comes from a woman, and a woman and the parents, but really early on in relationships, a lot of times, the mother is the one who is teaching everything. Teaching children how to bathe their bodies, how to clean their ears, how to brush their teeth, how to manage their money. All of these different things we teach children as mothers. And then when it comes to sex, lovemaking, intimacy, we say, go ask your dad. So even when we've taught all these things up until this point, and then now all of a sudden we say, I don't want to talk about that. Even if we are close to our children, what it does is that it creates this idea in a child's head that, oh, this is something I shouldn't be talking about, right? But if we get on the front of that conversation, then we can really do some cool things. So my question to you is, some of you may or may not be parents, but because I've kind of peeped you all out in your interaction with each other, it looks like that there are probably some really cool people here who have to have the tough conversations with young people, whether in your family or whether in your community. Maybe parents are not necessarily ready to that. And so I want to give you all a couple of tools. And that is one of the things that I did early on with both of my children was to identify adults together with them and with the adults that they felt like they could come to if they ever found themselves in a position where they didn't want to come to me. Now, why I think that I'm a very open mother and my children know that they can talk to me about anything, that doesn't mean that children want to. So parents, it doesn't matter how fabulous you are, you still need to have trusted adults in place that your children can say, hey, I've tried drugs. Hey, I think I want to have sex. Hey, I have a crush on my teacher. Whatever it is that they feel like they cannot come to you with immediately, trusted adults that kind of align themselves. And so this is what I say to you all, because some of you are those trusted adults and you don't even know it until that teenager or that young person comes to you and you're kind of blindsided by the question. So if that happens for you, I tell you to first gain permission or forgiveness for answering all questions. If a child comes to you and says, Uncle so-and-so, where do babies come from? Telling them that they should ask their parents that question is going to immediately give them the impression that that is an inappropriate conversation. And this begins our trend of not being sex positive, right? So simply answer the question. This is what I tell people with younger people, 0 to 5, and even teenagers, just answer the question. So your answer may be, I don't know. But kids know that adults know where babies come from. So you can't get away with that on where the baby comes from. But when it comes to body things, just answer the question. Don't try to make it real deep. Don't try to do a whole moral thing, right? And you want to create a space of non-judgment. If you get blindsided because you're the really cool relative, it's because those kids have already studied you and they know that they can come to you and ask the tough questions, right? They already think that you're cool. So you can just say, wow, thank you so much for trusting me. I am so glad that you trusted me with this question. This is a big deal. Thank them for sharing it with you, because even if you stumble through it and you're very unsuccessful at it, they will still feel like they can come to you and ask the question, right? So celebrating it versus shaming them, which is what I talked about. And then if you are given permission by a parent, you want to just remind children of the family standards, because sometimes parents are concerned if you are the wild and crazy aunt or the wild and crazy cousin, that you're going to steer their kid away from you. We know that within families, we have very diverse beliefs. And so one of the things that I always say when I am sometimes the person that people come to, I say, hey, 0 to 18, you have to follow the rules of your family. So just understand that whatever rules are in place, the most stringent ones are the ones you have to follow. But once you're 18 and out of the house, we can have an extended conversation about this, or please stay in communication with your parents, because what we don't want to do is shut down the conversation and the road that people have. So Toni Morrison, one of my favorite writers of all times, said, I wrote my first novel because I wanted to read it. Now, you all know that she is like completely prolific and says all these really deep and amazing things. And yet this one is so simple. And another one is that, I think when it comes on a creative scale, we have to remember that when we think about what we had access to as young people, for me, it was the Life Cycle Library. It was a 4-part book that broke down the entire life cycle, but the third book was all about, supposed to be about like intimacy. And I would go to this one little chapter called Necking, Petting, and Sexual Feelings. And I would read that chapter over and over and over again in this 4-part series. And so, I've talked to my mom about that. Like, I just wanted a comprehensive place because like many of you all here, I really enjoyed reading. And so I was in the library all the time trying to seek out and search answers about sex and sexuality. Even before I was having it, I was just interested in it. Young people are bombarded with so much more. They have so much more access to information, and some of it is not healthy and age appropriate. All right. So the book is in 4 sections, and the first section is called Liberation. This is particularly important for African Americans, and I talk specifically about this because you have to understand the history of the majority of us in this country has been we came as property and as enslaved people. And so the way that we think about sex really hinders who we are. One, dismantling the patriarchal mother, but then the other problem is that the Black body is a source of pain. Now, that is not something that everyone has to contend with. But when you think about the intersectionality of the patriarchy, of race, and and then of gender and class, before you even get to your first sexual experience, both male and female, you have all these other things that you have to get through of one, am I even worthy or deserving of this amazing love making? All right. And then two is the essential knowledge. I really feel like, especially when kids, these ideas around the body and around our space, right? So I talk about birth control, I talk about abortion as men leaning to supporting the woman in that it ultimately is not their choice. And that is a very tough thing for people to think about. But oftentimes, when people hear things in the voice of the mother, they are able to kind of open their mind to it a little bit more than if it's political or anything like that. All right. And then some essential knowledge about male spaces. Gross surroundings don't make me feel lovey. So that's another thing. Just teaching men how to properly care for their space and their body. And then where this other problem, that belief that foreplay starts with the body. And one of the things that I really try to dismantle, not only for my son, but for all men, is that, and I have a section called The Best Foreplay is a Clean Kitchen, and identifying what the clean kitchen is for the woman and communicating with her. Because if a woman has all of these other mother load things surrounding her, getting her in the mood or the idea around sex really comes from taking things off her plate. She's not going to want to necessarily be there just because you're there. So then the section 3, I just really get down to the nitty gritty and talk about all of these very technical aspects about when people say, well, nobody ever told me about sex. That's why I do it this way. That's why I've been practicing these poor behaviors. That's why I've used porn as a way to teach me how to have sex. And most porn is actually very driven in stereotype and violence against women. And so by reading these sections and doing the contemplations and understanding where people have gotten their knowledge about sex is really helpful. And then this idea that I'm too embarrassed to discuss sex with my partner, which is something that even adults really struggle with. This whole idea that you can actually have sex and intimacy with somebody, but you don't want to talk to them about it. And that is because we are often taught in silence that silence is preferred. Okay. And then the last section is the section of living a life of love. And these ideas, and I have problems and solutions, but this idea that like I want monogamy, but what if my partner won't like that? Or I want to be polygamous and I don't want to hurt my partner's feelings who wants to be monogamous. I talk about really teaching how to navigate a life of love. Because what we want to do ultimately, and what I envision for the future, for these generations that are coming behind us, is that we are hurting as few people as possible as we travel through our life of love. Some of the experiences that we have with love and love making intimacy, they should not be horrific experiences. And we don't have to keep damaging each other in order to say, well, now I've found this love of my life, right? We should be trying to fill people up with each experience they have versus giving them horrible experiences as well. So that section is really about communication. It's about consent, and it's about having the tough and honest conversations and teaching that very early. I tell people all the time, if you turn on Disney, the Disney Channel, all the shows are really built on this idea of mischievousness and deception. And so we start teaching our children really early that telling half truths are okay and not being completely honest is okay. And that they present it in a fun way. But when you really get clear about what you want, how you want your body to be treated, and you express that, and we make room for the communication and the hearing of that. That is also really powerful. So how am I on time? Can I share a poem?
Please do. Please do.
Okay. I know I went through that really, really fast, but one of the things that I want to share, because some of you may or may not know me, but this was my first nonfiction book. I felt very moved and inspired to write the book, and my son actually requested that I write the book. And the reason he requested it was because, you know, he had grown up in this feminist environment, and all the men and women in his life were, you know, pretty forward thinking, feminist, and open. And he got to college and he was hearing men talk about rape culture as if it was the accepted thing, and being really ignorant about things that they were saying around love and love making. And he just said, Mom, I'm pretty sure none of these guys have ever talked to their moms, because they wouldn't even think like this if they did that. And so, but I wanted to end with this poem about motherhood and about being a mother, because one of the things that I like to dismantle is that moms are not perfect. We do our best, but we love deeply and strongly. And I wrote this poem for the 2019 Blackout Empowerment Summit, which some of you may or may not be familiar, but D. Rashawn Gilmore is a dear friend of mine, and he is a part of the Blackout Empowerment organization, which is really about decreasing the curve of HIV and AIDS in the LGBTQ, the Black community. And a lot of young people, when they come out, what ends up happening is that their parents can often reject them. And so we were lined up as mothers, giving hugs to members of this community who wanted them, to remind them that mothers do love them and they can always get that maternal love. Divine Mother, you were in fact conceived in a hug. That's where it all started. I was hugged, I hugged, and I wanted that hug again, and even tighter and all over. I wanted to feel that hug. And then you and I became a God. Yes, we are the closest thing to it. We are incubator, insulator, hot tub, all expense paid vacation for 10 months. That's how we started, you and I. Breasts leak with inoculation of lifelong nutrition. We more than just play all day. We warrior, we built, we so soft, we so strong, flesh metal and impenetrable faith. Divine Mother, we give up fun stuff so you can live like royalty. We are the first cut coach. We are the guides and the guts. We are the lace and the laughs. We have been commissioned to teach you to dance and to praise, to build and never break. Divine Mother, we are refuge, military grade strength to bullies. We teach you true independence through our interdependence. When we do this solo, when we broke, we still shine bright. We make holidays out of income tax returns, good grades, your first recital when you star in a play. We remind you that your underarms have a life of their own again. Did you shower with soap? Did you remember your homework? Did you remember your power? Did you take out the trash? We school you. We are your first God. We slay you. We slay them. We part dragon and witch. We scold you. We best friend you. We know you, we know the back of your hand like the back of our hand. Before you think it, we already thought you were about to think it, Divine Mother. We are extricably, externally, and eternally tied. We are the first woman you love and the first you call a bitch. We catch hell, we raise hell, we are saint and the devil. We are everything supreme. We can't forget. We God and skin. We pray for your sins. We raise sin. We sin. We don't believe in sin. We love till the end. And we human too. We gotta grow. We gotta release. We gotta learn a different way to be. We gotta let you learn to be. Heck, we taught you how to be you. We peach cobbler you. We food in the microwave you. We stay up late waiting for you. We snuggle in bed you. We cry when you leave too. Divine Mother, we are human. We scared, we judge, we scold, we judge. We ain't always right, but we love and we hug. We hug 10 seconds longer than any man. We tell you you can make it even if you feel you can't. We believe in the unseen, Divine Mother. We first one there, we last one to leave. We the setup crew, we the cleanup committee. We fish, fry, and car wash for new uniforms and trips overseas, even when your daddy take a 15-year leave of absence, leaving it all up to us, make us fuss and cuss. We still find love inside us, and we hug and we pray, and sometimes we even beat our faces and slay, mostly for concerts on first Sundays. Mantra mama moans, recycle affirmations around your soul from your first breath to your last. It's gonna be okay. And we hug. I know they broke your heart, baby. And we hug. Don't let it break you. And we hug. Don't let them change you. And we hug. Be safe, baby. And we hug. Wear your seatbelt. And we hug. Did you meditate? And we hug. Did you eat and drink water today? And we hug. Save your money for the rain. And we hug. Get something nice for yourself. And we hug. Don't forget Mother's Day. And we hug. And my birthday. And we hug. I love you. And we hug. I love you, baby. And we hug. And we hug. And mama reminds you it's real. Thank you.
Oh, Natasha, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna pop, how do I pop out? Here's my website, natasharia.com. And like I said in the description before, it would be great if you were interested in buying Mama Sutra, that you consider purchasing it directly from me instead of going to Amazon, but you are welcome to go on Amazon, but I would prefer.
Absolutely. That was quite a poem. That, I mean, I'm sure everybody found something very particular in there that stuck out to them. And since I've got the mic, I'm just going to say that line, the first woman you love and the first you call a bitch. I remember the one and only time I called my mom a bitch. She smacked me across the face. And I never did it again. But woo, that was yeah.
And it's a complexity of motherhood, right? And so what better person to teach us about the complexity of intimacy? And not that women need any more work to do, but I think that if we really are living our best sexual lives and also teaching our children what that looks like through example and communication, it really can decrease that. I don't know how many times it's decreased my son thinking I was a bitch, but he's never said it. But I know he's felt it. I felt him feeling it.
MK, I was watching you the whole time during that poem. I'd be curious to hear what was going through your heart while you were listening to that. I know you've got some deep, deep love for your children. I've heard you talk about them many times. Anybody have any questions for Natasha? Or do we just all want to sit in that poem for a little bit while we hear JJ play us out? That sound good? I'm clicking through, see any hands raised. I think everybody's just enjoying that poem. Natasha, are you all right with that if we just play some music out today?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm kind of going through and reading about all the different things that people have shared. And I want to just say first, thank you all.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some people were dropping in some of their experiences with their parents and how they've done things. If you want to respond to any of that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I do want to just say for most people, unfortunately, we haven't had amazing sex positive experiences. And even when we have what we think of as liberal and communicative parents, the fear around sex and lovemaking and intimacy either asks us to just do this or do this, right? But we don't have full on communication and conversation about it. And I just want to encourage everyone and remind them that it's kind of like pulling off the Band-Aid of the past. The only way that we can kind of get to a new place, it may feel painful at first, but if you've got on a raggedy Band-Aid that's no longer protecting, any part of the wound, and that wound really needs some air, that is something that we really need to think about. So, yeah, that's it. And just be brave and be patient. And it's okay to say to children and to your lovers, this is new for me. I don't know how to do this, but I want to do something different. And I really try to help people walk through that. So the book can be used for families, for individuals, and for couples. Great way to kind of approach things together as you vet people for who could or couldn't be. They may be your tonight or your forever.
Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful. We loved it. Thank you so much, Natasha. Thank you for being here. That was just great. I know you've touched a lot of hearts this morning, so we thank you for being here.
Thank you all.
With that being said, I'll just remind everybody that We are a 501c3 here at Oasis, and all of this organization is run with all of your donations. So if you have anything to give during these, I know these are hard times for a lot of people in our community, but if you have anything to give, you can go to kcoasis.org/donate and give money there. You can set up regular giving, or we have a phone number that you can text to give, which I do not have on me, but somebody will put it in the chat over to the right. You can just text a number and just give a number, a monetary number there, to drop in just as one-time single donation to KC Oasis, so we can keep things afloat for this organization and keep hearing from people like Natasha. So we're gonna have JJ play us out one more song, and I'll give one more little thing before we go. So please, JJ, hit us up.
So I was going to do a silly song, and then I really like the poem, so I think I'm going to do a contemplation.
Thank you, JJ. Thank you, thank you. All right, from everybody here at KC Oasis, let's see. Natasha has answered a couple more questions over in the chat. If anybody would like to keep reading those, it looks like Natasha is still answering those in real time. We thank you very much, Natasha. If anyone's interested in purchasing Natasha's book, you can go to her website, natasharia.com. Everybody else today who spoke, Audra, I want to thank you for all of your information about what you do. I found that eminently interesting. JJ, of course, thank you for jumping up and stepping in. We love you. Thank you to Julie and Nikki for keeping this Zoom chat going every week, and for keeping this community going full steam, and the rest of the board for making this a place for all of us to get together and learn from each other and being there for one another. If you're interested in joining the snail mail group, or interested in submitting a button design for one of our 5 core values, all of that is still happening on the private page. So if you are interested in any of that, please check it out today. We hope everybody has a great week. Please stay safe. And we're going to be, I think this went well, we're going to be streaming on Facebook Live from here on out. So please have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Get outside if you can. Keep your distance. Cover your faces, including your noses. And we'll see you next week. We love you guys.